Well, I mean, Chris, was not, on the board when I started. Sherry, Cheryl Chamberlain, um, I'm getting confused with Deerfield. Bill Svatic, he's been,
Was it Hale?
no, no. The mayor was Kaplan.
Right, okay.
So I'm missing 3.
And a guy.
That was Bill Svatic,
Okay.
yeah. I'll ask Cheryl who the other, or rather Sherry. I just had Cheryl Chamberlain on my mind. Oh, I thought that excitement was for me.
Hey, hi.
Thank you.
Hey.
Um,
Which thing did you cook?
well, the garage, this isn't since you know.
Yes.
Because when I came in and talked to Disney. Susan, and she said, well, I read Randy's email. It just said to go get $10 to the village hall. And I was like, well,
Hi, I'm Jerry. Nice to meet
Jerry?
you. Yes.
I'm Laura. Nice to
Nice to
meet
meet you. I just take the minutes. That's all I do.
Okay.
And I've been doing it by tape, but
Oh, you have, okay.
because I've been,
It's good to meet you. And
Thank you.
I'm trying to remember, but don't.
oh,
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
I don't. So.
Okay.
Wait till you see how good I can screw the books up. How are you?
Get-
Oh, what happened?
Well, it's bad because I can't get it flat.
Right.
But I had surgery. I was in the hospital 8 days.
What did they do?
What did they do? I had a really bad infection
Oh, no.
that went to my bones. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
No, there was IV antibiotics for 8 days and they had to cut out the infection.
Oh,
So,
nothing worse than surgery. There are more nerves in your foot than anywhere else in the body.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
I found that out when I had surgery on my foot.
yeah,
Super painful.
so
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm glad to see that.
I'm on the mend. I'm here.
That's a plus.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it runs through
This?
Yeah.
And it's right here.
Hey, how are you? What did you do to your foot?
I had surgery. Yeah, in 8 days in the hospital.
Planned or?
Well, thanks.
Unplanned.
Because I
We're
touched
like-
it and I.
Like, I went to the doctor at 3,
Okay, thank you.
no, 2 o'clock, and I was in surgery at 5:30.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah,
I hope you're okay.
I hope so
Or
too.
it will be okay.
Yeah,
Maybe not now.
I'm in this for at least another month.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I had 3 IV antibiotics, 3 different times, 3 like different sets.
Oh. I know they were on the.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can't think of their names right now.
Wow.
Anyways, she has
Best
hearing.
Oh,
wishes.
she
Thank
does.
you. I hope.
So she
you-
uses the loop that's at the floor. There's a loop
Thank you.
around the
I
floor.
know you didn't, I figured
So
you
they can-
didn't
they
hear
can
from
tune
me that I
into-
wasn't coming, so you knew I would be here.
Yeah, that's what I figured, yeah.
Yeah. So
You're really good at talking.
I try. I forgot. Deerfield changed the meeting. Well, the board meeting trumps a commission meeting, so I'm here. But I forgot to tell you. Oh, no. Well, they changed.
Sure, you're
Let's
feeling
see.
that way.
You know, your hair looks so
He
cute,
has
curls.
the dubious honor of showing my son all the bee stuff.
It's.
So Rick is, okay. Will always remain on this pedestal.
Yes. But just the whole thing, it's really.
Yeah. Okay, are we ready?
Yeah, how did that growing
Yep,
up go
sorry.
so fast?
All right. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Riverwoods. Please stand with me and say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Ford,
Present.
Trustee Clayton,
Here.
Trustee Eastmont,
Here.
Trustee Jamerson, Trustee Rath, Trustee Smith,
Here.
and Trustee Trevino.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. First order of business is approval of the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting of May 6th. Do I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Is there any discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Before we have the Finance Director's report, may I have a motion for approval of the bills as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Are there any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Eastmont.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Trustee Rath. Trustee Smith.
Aye.
And Trustee Trevino.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Our Finance Director is still on family leave, and I would ask the Finance Committee Chair if there's nothing to report. That's a positive, I think.
Positively, there is nothing to
There's
report.
positively nothing to report. Are there any questions that we can pass along, please? Okay, seeing none.
I should say.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry. The audit is in really good shape, and we might have made this meeting, but in fact, because of Tony's absence and so on, I think it's definitely going to be presented to the board in June, which will be a major, major improvement from where we have been in the past.
Yes. Our Finance Director is doing outstanding work, absolutely outstanding work. Are there any questions I can pass along or we can pass along to? Okay, thank you very much. Treasurer is not with us tonight. Director of Community Services report. Director Witt, please.
Thank you, Mayor. A few items for tonight. A lot of road work happening. For Saunders Road, we finally got confirmation from IDOT that the project is moving forward. June 13th letting. I'll keep everyone apprised of what the results of that are. Speaking of Saunders Road, the infamous water main leak has been found. Dead center of the road, about 10 feet down, 10 feet down. Has been repaired, backfilled. We will do a full restoration of that, obviously with the restoration work on Saunders Road. However, prior to that, what we did find when the leak was discovered is that line already has another patch on it, section of cast iron pipe about 18 inches long, replaced another piece that somehow got damaged. So for the fact that pipe is aged and we now have a split, the leak was a split on the side of the pipe. Concern is the age of the pipe. We don't want to get into a situation where we go through the effort, spend $3 million to redo Saunders Road, and I have a leak come out next year. So I've directed GHA to put together a proposal to engineer a replacement for that portion of the water main pipe, all the way from the east side of the street to the valve vault, and including replacement of the valve vault, because GHA told me that it was very difficult to actually shut the water off at that location. So it should be replaced at the same time. So I think it's prudent to do that now so that we can get a very solid repair, good compaction, and then be able to resurface the road. Riverwoods Road, Lake County DOT indicated that their 2025 road patching project is beginning. It was supposed to start last week, but evidently it just started yesterday. They will be patching Riverwoods Road somewhere between Illinois Route 22 and Deerfield Road. So expect delays, expect drive arounds, and expect flaggers, I hope. As far as local road maintenance work, the 2025 program bids are due this Thursday. So we'll have some recommendation coming up to the next board meeting. And again, on Saunders Road, with the return of the Sandhill cranes, We have installed 2 wildlife crossing signs. They've been installed somewhere in the vicinity of 1,400 to 1,500 plus on Saunders, one in each direction, so big yellow signs. Please be careful, please watch. With the wetlands area that's there, they appear to be coming back every year, so we just want to let people see that there is the potential for them to be there. They are gray in color, so they blend in with the roadway as it is now. When the new road is done, maybe not so bad, but yes, they're a good 3 feet plus tall. Just odd to watch them go by. Federal Life, demolition work's been completed. Site will soon to be seeded to control erosion while the next phase of work, which includes reworking the existing detention basin to move it a little northward, but actually expand it. We'll be creating the new detention basin, the entry drive, as well as mass grading of the remainder of the site. All of that will be engineered over the next 2 to 3 months, and we should hopefully get into construction later this summer. For other demolition work, the house at 3680 Deerfield Road is now complete, pending final inspection later this week. And for just an update on open burning, to date, we've processed 19 open burning permits. We have 2 more in queue for review. So that's where we are.
Any questions for our director? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, consultants report, our attorney's report, please.
Lake County sent us a check to pay for our cost of relocating the entry sign to Meadow Lake. It was part of our intergovernmental agreement. And so we now have gotten that payment, I believe. I don't know, Danny, if you know if it came in or not. They sent it by, they gave us the tracking number and put it in a tracked piece of mail. So hopefully we'll get it. But they advised me that they had made the
The
payment.
check is in the mail.
I didn't want to say it that way. But I didn't want to say it that way. But,
Seriously.
they reminded me that when they reconfigure the work on Deerfield Road, I don't know if the board remembers that Elevate will be using the access road that belongs to the village rather than one of their curb cuts or more onto Deerfield Road will be removed. So we also need to do probably a follow-up with Elevate to make sure they have easement rights to use that to get out to Deerfield Road. They reminded me of that today. So a little, follow-up on the legal stuff for that. That's all I have after that.
Are there any questions for Trustee Jamerson, please?
Did they say anything about the multi-use path that is going to be in front of Thornton's that now would be in the pond, given where the pond is?
On Thornton's, you mean? Where the pond is on Thornton's. They have been engineering to create a retaining wall and
to make the pond smaller?
Well, yes, to give them room for the path. And they negotiated with Thornton's to acquire what they needed.
Okay.
And they're putting the extra comp storage they need for that on the Federal Life side.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for our attorney? Okay, next is Plan Commission report. Chair Brightcove.
Good evening. The Plan Commission has now not met for several months, and pending what happens with the orphans application, it may be a while longer. So I'm thinking that perhaps we should start meeting to talk about the comprehensive plan, since it's overdue and we can add many things to it. So perhaps we can take a chapter at a time or chapter or two a month and start discussing changes that might be necessary. Any questions?
Is there any questions for our chair?
So some communities, the board will actually refer the revision of the comprehensive plan to the Plan Commission and ask them to begin work on it. You're sort of asking for that. There is, we would probably want to have our planning consultant help with that effort. The plan is 6 years old. Was approved in 2019. So probably needs a little bit of a refresher. I don't know to what extent. I know we talked a little bit about looking at the sustainability plan as well and integrating some of those concepts. So there may be a reason to also to step back on that one too.
Great. So I would like that. I'd like the board to direct us to start looking at it.
Would you want to do this tonight or at another meeting when you
Well,
have more time to?
I'd like
I
to
think
move that,
Trustee Jamerson
I'd like
had
to make a
question.
motion that the Plan Commission move forward with updating the comprehensive plan at their earliest convenience.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I think it's an all in favor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same. Motion passes. Please begin,
We will. Thank you very much.
and good luck.
Good luck. Here's that.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it. Zoning Board of Appeals, our chair isn't with us tonight. I don't believe the zoning board has met recently. Is that correct, Director Witt?
That is correct. They have no pending cases. However, similar to what the Plan Commission's doing, they want to tackle some potential revisions. At least they'll at least start talking about and reviewing the sign code as it exists and make some recommendations for some potential changes.
Is there any information that trustees wish to pass along to the ZBA? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Chief, police report, please.
Yes, the police activity is in the board packet. Additionally, on May 9th, Riverwoods officers and an underage agent conducted alcohol and tobacco compliance checks at 6 businesses in Riverwoods. A server at a restaurant in the 2000 block of Milwaukee served alcohol to the agent and was issued a citation for unlawful sale of alcohol to a minor, and the case was turned over to the liquor commissioner. Additionally, we received a disbursement check, the police department did, for $5,016.10 for the Riverwood share of property seized in a joint narcotics investigation during the service of a search warrant at a home in Riverwoods in 2009. At the time,
in the mail for a long time.
yeah, at the time, I did fill out the paperwork so we'd be eligible to receive a share of what was seized. And I was told at that time it might be several years. I had no idea. So, yeah.
Pleasant
So it
surprise.
was found money.
Found money. Yeah, yeah. Best kind. Are there any questions for our chief? We have a new officer being sworn in.
Oh, we did offer the position of full-time police officer that was accepted by Officer Robert Roque, who is currently, it's R-O-Q-U-E, well, you have that, who's currently a Skokie police officer, and he's finishing his 20 years in Skokie. I didn't bring the full biography on him, but he's a 20-year officer. And in the patrol division, he's got extensive knowledge as an evidence technician, and we're glad to have him. Unfortunately, he's replacing another officer that we got from Skokie, who was here at a board meeting a few months ago to get sworn in, and he got an offer he couldn't refuse in the private sector, and basically came to me and said, "It was an offer I couldn't refuse. I hate to do this to you, but." You know, so he left, but he did recommend that this other officer that he used to work with in Skokie apply, and he did, and I think he'll be a very good fit for us. And he'll be starting on the 30th of May, we'll have the clerks swear him in on that day at work because he could not be at the board meeting tonight. He's out of town, but I intend to bring him to the first board meeting in June, and we'll do a ceremony to swear him in at that time also.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions for our chief? Thank you very much, as always. Your service is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fire District Report. Chief Kruger isn't with us this evening. Information and comments from the President. Status regarding the review of the proposed sustainability plan. As I indicated at the last meeting, we will have our consultants do a technical review or an assessment of the plan as proposed. And that meeting is set for Friday, and we are hopeful to move forward pretty quickly with that. We've also decided, or not decided, we will be having a comp and benefits meeting to add that to the agenda, the position described in the proposed plan, add that to the agenda of the Comp and Benefits Committee meeting. So that's all I have on the sustainability plan and the status, but we are moving forward and we will give it the importance it deserves. Status of the stormwater management report review. I have been in contact with Baxter Woodman, who I think, as most of the committee members probably know, we had a proposal to review the stormwater management plan, or report rather, as presented to the board by Gaywald Hamilton. So we're going back and forth right now with Baxter Woodman about how to go about that particular review, considering the feasibility and the ecology of Riverwoods, because some of the recommendations were a bit dramatic for us. So just wanted to keep you updated on that. That committee should be having a meeting, I would hope, in the next couple of months, so we can move strongly forward on that. Okay, moving on, visitors wishing to address the board for items that are not on the agenda. Do we have anybody that wishes to address the board this evening?
Hello, Randy Merrill, Riverwoods Preservation Council. I wanted to let you know, last week we were at the Brushwood event called Mother Earth, and we showed our books, had a lot of good dialogue with people. We sold some of our native plant seeds, so that's exciting. Got a few people signing up for the newsletter. Of course, some of those people are not Riverwoods residents, but we still like to talk about natives and buckthorn and all sorts of stuff. So it worked. We actually sold 40% of our seed inventory. And thank you. We're going to be taking orders online and doing our Zelle payment. And then I'll have them packaged up so that they can pick them up here at Village Hall. They'll just be in brown craft bags. Nobody's going to steal them. The resident's name is on them. So hopefully we'll be sold out shortly. I wanted to let you know garage sale is on July 19th here at Village Hall. We have 6 participants so far and a request for 16 tables. So there's a lot of stuff. Yeah. Yes, you're not having. So several people do like multiple tables because they have a lot of items to sell. And I always say it's nice to have more people participate, but if you only have one table of items, it is not that interesting to people coming in to shop. So we're also in some light discussions with RRA to see about doing Residents' Day that day as well. And if we do, that will bring in another group of people from the neighborhood and should be a real bonus for both groups. So again, preliminary discussions with that. Steve Zimmerman, village ecologist, reached out to me and wanted to set up some time to meet with the board, our PC board. He says he wants to make sure that we're always on the same page, that he shares some of the initiatives that he has going on within the village. So perhaps we don't, have redundancy and we don't bring up things that he's already working on and has a plan for. And then lastly, I want to say thank you. I applied for a burn pit permit and received it. And I was actually very pleased to see how our property was mapped out very clearly with the property lines and with the areas that we can burn either by a fire pit and or open burn. It was actually quite a good diagram. So thank you, Director Witt.
Are there any questions for our President of the RPC? Comments? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to address the board? Okay, moving on. Our first item of new business is to have a public hearing on the 2025 Riverwoods Affordable Housing Plan. And I believe we need to recess the board meeting. No.
Just say that you're opening the public hearing.
I'm opening the public hearing. And council will lead us through it.
recent amendments to the Affordable Housing Planning and Appeals Act require that we amend our housing plan, our affordable housing plan. The amendments also suggest that there should be a hearing before we amend the plan. So this is the purpose of tonight's public hearing. We published in the paper as well. And this was, of course, included on the agenda. The material for amending the plan was provided to the board in the packet of April 15. Nothing has changed since then, what you have here tonight. And for our new trustees, I provided some further background information to explain what we have here for the benefit of the public or anyone listening. I'll just mention there is a memo in the packet from me. The original plan that the village adopted was in March of 2005. We revised it in June of 2020. The reason we're required to file a plan is because when the Illinois Housing Development Authority compiles a list of municipalities that don't have an adequate share of affordable housing, we fall on the list. The goal is for communities to have 10% of their housing stock be affordable under the state law, and Riverwoods currently is 1.5%. So the question is, how can we increase our stock of affordable housing? Our plans in the past suggested that we look at some locations that are no longer suitable. One was the Kiani Trail property across the street from the Village Hall. We learned after years after we adopted the plan in 2005 that that property has very, very high quality wetlands and is not suitable, covering almost the entire property, is not suitable for development. We at one point pointed to the property where the police station is. The police station was developed instead, so we don't have that property. And south of the police station is the Woodland Preserve, and doesn't really have good access, and is a woodland preserve at this point, so a demonstration project. So we at one point looked at the Federal Life property as a possibility for affordable housing, and now the property is going to be used primarily for the fire station, the new fire station by the fire district at some point, and for improving stormwater management for that region over there. So we updated the plan by looking more closely at what we could do in the areas that we have under our control. And of course, the big steps that the village has taken is for about a year, the Plan Commission worked on developing the Plan Development Overlay District as a new zoning category. The board adopted that text amendment at the beginning of this year. We also adopted an affordable housing ordinance that would apply to multifamily development that's built in the new Plan Development Overlay District, which encompasses the biggest properties that we have in the village that could be potentially redeveloped. And in fact, we know Wolters Kluwer's property is on the market. They don't think it's going to be kept as an office building, and the people who've been talking to them have been primarily multifamily developers. So the village seems to be in sync with this revision to the plan and looking at the properties that could fall within the Plan Development Overlay category. Our affordable housing ordinance stipulates that 10% of the units in a multifamily development for sale development be affordable, and we use the definitions in part that are in the state law. We modified them somewhat for the for sale product. That's also not atypical for communities up in the North Shore. Finally, the amendments to the law required that we update our plan by really describing the constraints on development of affordable housing in the village. I think we just expanded many points that we've made in the past. The fact that we don't have any available land really that were built out, that most of our property is either with woodlands, wetlands, floodplains. It's just very difficult to get density other than the areas we've indicated in the Plan Development Overlay. The goal that we selected in the plan is a revision from 2005. The goal is that we increase our percentage from 1.5% to 6.5%, or at least a 5% increase overall. And that's one of the goals we could choose in the plan. is something that we can attempt to do with our new affordable housing ordinance. So that's the purpose of the revision. The full text of the 2025 plan is in the packet, and it's been online. So I don't know if there's any questions from the audience.
Are there any questions from any of the trustees? Any questions? I suppose we need
Does
members of the
anyone-
public
anybody?
have any comment on the affordable housing plan? Okay, hearing none, I believe that closes the
Yeah.
public hearing.
Motion to close the hearing?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I think it's an all in favor,
Aye.
please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The hearing is closed. Next item of business on our agenda is approval of a resolution adopting the 2025 Riverwoods Affordable Housing Plan. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I believe this might be a roll call.
Trustee Eastman. Aye. Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Trustee Rath.
Aye.
Trustee Smith.
Aye.
Trustee Trevino. Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, next order of business is approval of the appointment of Tim Bizarre to the Plan Commission. The memo in your packet indicates that Stephen Levin, our longtime member of the Plan Commission, needed to resign. And so I approached Mr. Bizarre, who is on the ZBA and has been on the ZBA since 2021. I believe he would be a benefit, his experience would be a benefit to the Plan Commission, and I believe his dedication and interest is very high. If I could have a motion for approval of Tim Bizarre.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We now have a full Plan Commission again for the moment. But we now have a vacancy on the ZBA, so that's how that works, right? Pardon me?
On both? Or is it someone else?
He only wanted to serve on one.
He only wanted to serve on one. So, yeah. Moving on, presentation of the Strategic Land Use Committee Survey. Trustee Clayton, please.
All set. We're going to try to get it up on the screen.
We can dim it a little. Can you see it? Kind of, maybe, sort of. I have a hard copy. Oh, okay.
Well, good evening. For those of you who haven't met them before, I wanted to introduce the other members of the committee. The good-looking gentleman all the way in the back is former trustee Hollander, who has
Guest
served on the
appearance.
committee up until this point. And we also have two people from Tesca, Michael Blue, who's a VP of Planning, and Lee Brown, a principal in the firm, and they've been invaluable in helping us through this process. The committee was formed in January, and the idea was to focus on village, three things really: village properties, village rights of way, and what we call potential village opportunity sites, which were sites that the village doesn't own, but in which we might be able to have some influence on the development of the site such that it would provide some of the amenities that we are looking for. So we define ourselves three objectives. The first one was to further the character and the development of community within the village. The second was to, we believe that there's a changing village demographic, and we wanted to try to capture some of the things they were interested in. And then we wanted to think of ways of utilizing the land that were key elements of successful spaces. So, and a particularly space that is welcoming and accessible, underlined accessible, safe, and comfortable. And that means accessible in the context of how you can get there, what you do once you get there in a broad sense, not just ADA compliant. Next slide, please. The process we went through was kind of circular. We kind of bounced back and forth between various different approaches. But one of the first things we did was to review the comprehensive plan for land use references. And for those who have not seen the comprehensive plan or not looked at it for a while, there's a couple excerpts from the plan that I wanted to convey. One, the section on village land says access to some or all of the remaining open space provides a variety of opportunities for residents to enjoy both active and passive activities while also helping to preserve wildlife habitat and natural resources. Open space can provide informal meeting places to draw people together. Another policies that were then delineated in the plan to implement those goals. There were two in particular that resonated with the committee. One was provide connections, provide linkages and trails, access to woodlands, streams, and other usable lands, and scenic corridors along existing roadways, with emphasis on that last phrase. And the second was provide for low impact recreation compatible with resource protection goals. Consider creating areas devoted to low-impact recreational uses for residents of all ages on suitable village-owned property. Emphasis on suitable. We were fortunate enough to work with Director Witt in going through the various topography and other elements of property that could help define what was possible in the space and what wasn't. So we then define some potential uses for these properties, which are in the little box there. One was the expansion or enhancement of a current use, which, for example, would be something like the community garden, where we have something going on there. It's proven to be very popular, so we may want to expand that. We wanted to look at connections between the various elements of the village. Education, particularly with regard to woodland care, active and passive recreation, sort of no child left inside concept, where we want stewardship in the next generation of people who are going to be able to look after the woodlands, and how we might be able to use some of our open space to promote that stewardship. Obviously, spaces for community gathering, programmatic use. And then the obvious things, we could sell the land for commercial or institutional use, or we could just leave it as is. And what we did then was, with these potential uses and the nature of the properties, we developed a three-dimensional matrix, which talked about the desired uses, the characteristics of the property, and how difficult it was to implement that use. And then we have a strategy now to begin to recommend to the Board of Trustees going forward. Next slide, please. We surveyed the residents. The survey was open from January 6th to February 7th. We had what we considered to be a strong response. There were 355 contributions. Some of those were multiple contributions from a single individual whose intent was clearly not to participate in the survey. What it boiled down to was that we had 176 unique IP addresses and 192 responses from those unique IP addresses, because there may be more than one adult at one IP address. We felt we have, with that level of response, a good sample size, and we could tie it to the census data, where the number of homes that indicated that they had children of school age living in the home exactly matched, or pretty much exactly matched, the census data from the last census. The top 8 ranked responses from the survey were sidewalks and paths, areas for active recreation, open spaces for passive enjoyment, indoor recreation, and then there were several that we kind of set aside in the end. First was a library, which was mentioned frequently in the survey responses, but it's totally outside our control. And in fact, the Deerfield Library, if you bring your tax bill there and you pay a similar tax to the Deerfield residents, you can use the Deerfield Library facilities. Outdoor space for festivals and community events was something that we felt we had already. And then public gardens was another area where we felt that we were surrounded by a private garden. So we didn't spend a lot of time on that. The key results from the survey were the number one requested amenity was improved sidewalks and paths, both natural and along roads. And the number one requested improvement was walkability and connectivity. Next slide, please. So the spaces that we considered in the process were the village rights of way, sidewalks, paths, and so on. These are not in very good order here on the slide. I apologize for that. But property in the village that I guess it's about 7.5 acres that's adjacent to the 37 acres, which is not village owned, but we were talking about the property that is within the village, but is not owned by the village. So that really falls into the category of something that we might be able to work on in the future. We looked at the current campus area, which is basically the west side of Port Wine around Village Hall. We looked at the Chianti parcels, which are the east parcels across the street from Village Hall. We considered the potentially abandoned fire station, the remaining Federal Life parcel, the Woodland Preserve, Rivenburg, which is a property that's along Riverwoods Road near Indian Trail, and then another future consideration, a portion of the village, Walch's Kluwer property. So the next several slides, next slide, please. The next several slides take each one of the properties particularly and give you a little map of the property and some of the considerations that we took into account for each one of the properties. For example, taking the Chianti property, Chianti, the three properties there represent some extremely high quality wetlands, some of the highest quality wetlands in the county, as a matter of fact, but it is also an area that is ripe for educational opportunity and is really quite beautiful particularly in the spring when the blue flag iris kind of surround the pond that's there. We know that there should be no development on the site, but we considered a boardwalk or trail option for educational use, which was in fact part of the campus plan, potential learning activities, and the fact that we had parking across the street made it accessible. So our findings for this site were that it's a very strong opportunity for passive recreation, but it would be enhanced by a trail on the site and to the site. So that's kind of what we went through with each property. The next one on the next slide is the current Village Hall campus. I don't think we need to go through every single detail with regard to each one of these sites, but I think we felt there was an opportunity for the full campus implementation, which was the pathways, educational opportunities, and stewardship, generational stewardship opportunities. I will let Teska defend the potential for a splash pad. What can I say? Our planners said they're extremely popular and it should be at least part of the consideration. So we considered it. And then we also have the potential for expansion of the existing community garden in some of the properties around the campus. The fire station was next. It's one of the only properties that has an adaptive reuse possibility for indoor recreation, but we laid this whole property aside as a future consideration depending on how things sort out. The remaining federal life parcel, the important part of the federal life parcel is that it's either a potential to connect to the commercial uses or redevelopment of the shopping center, but it also has few residential impacts if you had some kind of a activity on that site that could be for all residents and not upset the Meadow Lake residents by virtue of noise or lighting or so on. The site findings basically were that it's possible to put some kind of an small outdoor recreation site there, which was something that was requested by the public. Again, it could be a splash pad, and defining the best use of this property obviously depends on the future of the shopping center and what happens to the balance of the Federal Life site. Rivenburg is a property that is basically not developable in almost any fashion. It's not accessible. It's only good for passive recreation. It works best as open space. We thought it was not a high priority based on the feedback that we got from residents. And finally, the vacant not quite finally, the vacant 8 acres, which I described to you before, that are part of the 37 acres which are in the village but not owned by the village. That is a large enough space to be used to contain one or more outdoor recreational activities, or it could be a development site for additional commercial use, depending on how it folds into the overall plan for the site. As far as the Woodland Preserve is concerned, we looked at the ability to build upon the infrastructure that we have there already, which is several well-designed pathways that are really quite beautiful, particularly in the fall. If we could begin to find uses for those pathways and ways to attract people to come, even in advance of the multi-use trail along Deerfield Road, then that could really be an exciting place to be within the village. Of course, the issue is the parking right now is remote, and any use that we might have that entails small children would require some kind of access control over the busy streets that are on either side of the site. So we also thought it might be a location for public art, or also just generally passive and some types of active recreation, such as a fitness trail where you could go from one station to the next around. You could ride your bike there, and you'd have a reason to go there and a reason to stay. Next were the community gardens. There's a high demand for the community gardens. There's a lottery every year, and it's passive recreation, so it fits into sort of the character that we were looking for. Gardens have a small footprint. It would require adjustments to the grade and topography if we were to expand the community garden into the space next to the community garden, moving southward. At this point, if we regraded that and did some topography work there, then that might also facilitate a solution to access to the Woodland Preserve. So we actually thought that this was a low-cost, highly regarded investment for the near term. And lastly now, Walters Kluwer. This is a place where if there's recreation for the entire community that we can negotiate as part of a plan development, then this would be the place to do it. Something is, I think at one point on the 37 acres, we were thinking about a public swimming pool as part of the development there.
Years ago, we asked the developer to put a 1 or 2 acre tract in the middle aside for a public use, though we didn't know what it would be.
Okay. All right, so that's the kind of thing that we thought we should be thinking about with regard to the Wolters Kluwer site. So key takeaways, next slide, oh, you got it. Trails are a high priority for our residents, and access to trails enhances the use of these sites all through the village. We looked at short-term wins like the community garden and long-term opportunities such as the fire department site. And we thought that the size and location of the Chianti site makes it a priority for a low-impact passive recreation use. And the 7.8 acre site on Milwaukee, it has the most potential for active recreation uses or structures. So a possible preliminary strategy for responding to the amenities desired by the residents and the characteristics of the property that we have, and taking into account the difficulty of implementation, was first and foremost to significantly raise the priority for connectivity within the village, make it on a par with some of the other things that we're thinking about making major investments in. We thought that we would like the board authority to determine what preliminary investment is required to qualify for the outside funding to get some of this done. It seems like from the feedback from the residents that the first step is a sidewalk along Port Wine Road. The benefit of that is that if we can work with the Lake County Forest Preserve District, which we had discussions with at one time, to connect at the south end of that across through the Forest Preserve District or along Lake Cook Road, the Des Plaines River Trail is on the village side of the river at that point. And you could in fact have a complete circle within the village where you could go along the Des Plaines River Trail, across the multi-use path on Deerfield Road, down Port Wine Road, and then along the Lake County Forest Preserve Trail. We thought that it would be important to have a short-term win and to undertake, depending on the cost estimates, the topological and site preparation work needed to expand the community garden and improve access to the woodland preserve. We thought that we would recommend completing the raised pathways envisioned in the campus plan west of Village Hall and within the Chianti properties as well. I already talked about the Wolters Kluwer. We want to retain the federal, we are recommending to retain the remaining federal life parcel for active recreation if it's not part of the commercial redevelopment, and then set aside the fire station for longer run consideration. So that's our report. Questions?
Questions?
I have a
Comments?
question.
Oh, Trustee Trevino, please.
First of all, thank you. I really love the pages with all the maps and then all that information that really summarizes it well. The question I have is, you have the priority of what the residents liked. Do you have the frequency of use data that goes along with that? So for example, this is something I might do twice a month. This is something I might do once a year. So as you looked at those, you could say, yes, this is how much use we think we'd get out of it based on the data?
You guys want to try that?
We were asking questions about how they are currently using open space and other activities, whether they're in the community or outside the community, because what we have found in the past, if you ask questions about what would you like, they don't necessarily connect to how they will be used. And so almost all the questions targeted, how are you using open space and public facilities, whether they're in the village or not? We don't have, The sample size is relatively small. I mean, it's a reasonable portion of the community responded, but I don't think that you can necessarily generate a reliable number of use hours, use days, or something like that from the survey as we constructed it.
Okay, so they didn't tell you, you know, one of the things I go to Deerfield and walk their paths or whatever, they didn't give you how often?
They didn't give us how often.
Can you define splash pad for me, please? I mean, you know.
It's aimed at kids. Let's start there. It's literally a water feature that is often a horizontal surface with or without active jets that spray kids. It's an updated version, I will tell you, of that, but it's incredibly popular wherever it is.
Okay.
It's not inexpensive, however, and it requires a considerable construction process. And it's only really useful if you can walk there or get there on a bike, or it's not common for us to have a destination splash pad.
Splash pad. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you. I think there are a lot of things here that, as the Plan Commission starts working, can be integrated. One thing does come to mind. It's the connectivity, the sidewalk along Port Wine Road. If you recall the Gaywald report in the stormwater management, they talk about doing some kind of expansion of a bike path down Port Wine Road as part of the stormwater management from the area. So there's some good things connecting here.
We discussed that with Director Witt particularly, and he had some ideas about putting in a raised sidewalk rather than some of the ways that Gewalt had originally envisioned it. And actually, it gave us the way he described it, it gave us some hope that it might actually be implementable.
I think that's a very important, not only connection between this land use, but the stormwater management issue, and frankly, safety. I mean, everybody who drives down Port Wine Road knows they've seen somebody with a baby carriage, they've seen people walking dogs, people jogging, and it's not safe. It's not safe.
Yeah, and it was very highly rated by our residents. We didn't have activity, how many times you walk on Port Wine, but I can tell you that almost every survey mentioned connectivity in some form or another, and Port Wine seems to be the central point of all of the connectivity within the village.
It's been something that we've had a focus on for a while. When the county came to us to describe the work on Deerfield Road, they are coming down Port Wine Road a short distance. And so we said they had to make some improvements when they touched Deerfield Road. They had to come down to Port Wine maybe, I don't know, some distance, a couple 100 feet at least. So we said, well, why don't you just keep going down and we'll put in this. And so we tried that, but they said, nice try.
Well, as part of the stormwater management, perhaps there are grants or other sources that can help with funding with that as well. Maybe not. Yeah, I know. Are there any other comments or questions? Oh, Chair Brightcroft, please. Might have been on.
My comment is that some of these suggestions work very well with the sustainability plan, the draft sustainability and climate action plan, connectivity and educational opportunities and that kind of thing. So
transportation.
And transportation could work really well with some of the draft provisions.
It's a connector. It's all interrelated. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Important work. Last item of new business is an approval of a change order number COR 001 to Clean Cut Tree Service for $18,496 for the Sanders Road project. Director Witt, would you like to lead us through that, please?
Certainly, Mayor. So as you may remember, Clean Cut Tree Service is under contract with the village for several different projects, all under one bid. They did the tree removal at the Federal Life Project site. They did tree removal along the campus here at Village Hall. And they did about 150 some plus trees along Saunders Road, which needed to be taken down in order to widen the road and reconstruct the drainage ditches, which was all part of a need because of the additional stormwater runoff when the road gets widened. The scope of the tree removal service for the Saunders Road project was based originally on the tree survey that was prepared by Gewalt Hamilton back in 2021. Trees that were dimensioned to be 3 inches or larger in diameter and determined to be in the way of the road construction were the trees that were targeted in that bid package that Clean Cut bid on and was awarded the contract. Trees that were smaller than 3 inches were perceived to be trees that did not need to be cut down early, that the road construction contractor would just be able to bulldoze or dig out with a little bit of ease. Unfortunately, over the course of the years, we're now in 2025, when Clean Cut comes through to do the tree removal, a lot of those trees have grown up a little bit. So trees that were not targeted to be removed because they were less than 3 inches are now over 3 inches and now had to be removed and were in the way. And admittedly so, on GHA's part, there were some trees that somehow they missed within the survey. So GHA reviewed this change order with Clean Cut. They were able to cut some of the costs out of here, but the majority of the cost, the original 20,000 plus, resulting in the change order request of 18,496, were perceived to be valid by GHA based on the fact that these trees have additionally grown, and yes, they missed a few. So what we're asking for tonight is, in order to close out that contract with Clean Cut, is that their change order number, COR number 001, in the amount of $18,496 be approved so that we can, again, close out their total project.
Is there a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments for our director? Trustee Smith, please.
Yeah, so Director, what my only question is this at the agreed upon contracted rate for these additional trees, or is this kind of new pricing?
This is there was not a unit, this was not an anticipated cost. There was not a unit price established in the event that there were additional trees that needed to be cut. I relied on GHA to review the cost as well as the quantity of trees, and they came back with a recommendation to approve.
I'm sorry, let me restate the question. So there's presumably a cost for those trees that are 3 to 5, 6 to 15, and over 15?
Yes.
And my question is the cost the same as when the contract was approved for these additional trees? I understand that there's additional trees. My question is the unit cost per tree at the agreed upon rates.
They came through with a price, their change order price came in at $1 per inch on the trees. I did not compare that particular cost with the unit prices that were in their contract for that particular project. No, I think that their contract, if you give me a second, just looking to see how they actually bid that for Saunders. So the bid package only asked for a total lump sum on the bid, did not give us, like we did with Lucas when they were doing the hazardous tree removal. There we certainly had, based on the classification of the tree, which every class was a different diameter range. This particular one was solely a lump sum. Just to remember also that Clean Cut came in at a price that was roughly, I think, a third of what the next contractor was. So we experienced some savings in cost because of the bid that they had, But it is unfortunate the amount of trees that actually grew up.
Trustee Jamerson, please.
As I looked at the change order request, there's a total of, excuse me, 544 additional trees. Regardless of the size, they're charging us $34 a tree. That's the way it's written. So for the 544 additional trees,
Yeah, so
they're only charging us $34 a tree.
tree.
I'd like to hire them to take
Sure.
a couple trees off of my property.
$34. Are there,
So
Are there
yeah,
any-
that's the
yeah.
way I read their change order.
are there any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Raff,
Aye.
trustee Smith,
Aye.
trustee Trevino,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Eastmond. Motion passes.
There's no old business for us this evening. Board comments. Does any one of the trustees have any comments? Anything they'd like to bring up here? Good workshop. I'd like to say good workshop. I hope you all agree with that. Good workshop. Okay, so no reason to go into executive session. The next date and time for our meeting, regular meeting, is June 3rd, 2025 at 7:30, right here in the boardroom. Do I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Because